Ice Age 1 starts when a squirrel named Scart is trying to save his acorn for later, but breaks some ice and escapes, trying to not die in that spot, and he achieves it, but ends up being crushed by a mammoth who was following other animals who were escaping the glaciation. Among them was a mammoth named Manny who is going to the other side, no matter he is going right to his death. There is also a sloth named Sid who wakes up realizing that he was abandoned by his family, feeling very sad. When he goes down the tree he was sleeping in, he steps on some poop. And thanks to his small IQ, ends up stepping on the salad of some rhinos, and eats the last flower they had. They were very angry and wanted to kill him on the spot. He escapes and crashes with Manny, who tries to help him by tricking the rhinos, telling them that there was quicksand. But Sid, using his superior intelligence, throws a stone, making them realize that there was no quicksand at all. Then Manny has no other option than to beat them both. And after defeating them, Sid wanted to go to the south to save his life. But if he went, the rhinos would kill him, so he decides to follow Manny despite him telling him that he didn't want to see him anymore. Meanwhile, in another place, there is a tribe of humans being observed by two tigers, Diego and Soto. Soto orders Diego to take the human baby to take revenge on the humans that hunted them in the past and take revenge. Meanwhile, Manny is building a refugee, while Sid is trying to light a fire under the rain, failing. Then he tells Manny that his family left him behind, racing their scent from the road, trying to get rid of him, trying to make Manny feel sorry for him, letting him in the refugee. But Manny refuses, acting asleep, leaving Sid outside. Meanwhile, Scartwith is taking his acorn to the top of a trunk to save it there. But a lightning hits him, leaving him cooked along his acorn. Meanwhile, the pack of tigers attack the humans, and Diego goes to take the baby, but the baby's mother takes him and escapes. Diego chased her, but when arriving to a cliff, the mother jumped to the river along her child. Then Diego reunites with the tigers, giving the info that the baby escaped. And, as they were being chased by the humans, they made a strategical retreat. And as the history has to continue, Manny and Sid find the dying mother in the river shore, holding her child. The woman, with her last energy, gives the child to them and then disappears. Manny wants to leave it there, but Sid wants to take care of the little one, 'cause he is a good sloth. But, when trying to take care of him, Diego appeared trying to take the child, excusing himself, saying that he is taking him back to the humans. But Manny doesn't buy it and decided to help Sid to take care of him. But when arriving to the humans' village, they find out they already left. And as they needed help, Manny decides to adopt Diego as their personal tracker. Then they embark in a trip to find the humans. But in one occasion, the baby started to cry. And after some attempts to make him happy, Diego achieved to scare him by accident. Then they get to the conclusion that he is just hungry and try to get a watermelon. But some dodos aren't gonna let them get it. And some dodos get to extinction because of their IQ higher than average. But when Sid sees the child gets too much strength from the plot, that achieves to trespass the dodos. But as he is very excited, he breaks the watermelon by accident. But is okay because it is easier for the child to eat it that way. And then the dodo is extinct because of their superior IQ. In night, Sid by accident finds Scart's acorn, and when he is about to eat it, Scart arrives to reclaim it, and beats up Sid. And when the pack is sleeping, Diego tries to retrieve the baby. Manny's trunk stops him from doing it. Then, Diego's friends arrive and Diego tells them that he is gonna guide Sid and Manny to a trap, where they are gonna attack them. When the morning arrives, Manny thinks that Diego stole the baby and confronts him. But Diego swears that he didn't take him. But then they realize that Sid took him to flirt with female sloths. Manny took the baby, and no matter how much Sid begged him, he didn't return the baby. So Sid decided to get back with the sloths, but they left, leaving the rhinos from before in their place, and they wanted to kill them. But he uses Diego to fake his death, and the rhinos believe it thanks to Sid's smell to death, so they leave. Then the pack continue their journey, looking for humans. In the way, Sid almost died a ton of times and also fights the baby, and Diego also faked the humans' footprints to guide them to the trap. In the way, Scart tries to warn them about the pack of tigers, but they cannot understand him, so Diego gets rid of him. And when they are about to cross paths with the humans, Diego guides them to a cave. They are not sure about that, but Diego tells them that it is a shortcut, And before they could think about that, an avalanche occurs, and they have no other option than to get into that cave. Inside, Sid finds a lot of lore of their world, from his race's evolution to dinosaurs and even aliens. Then after a while, the baby falls through an ice slide, and the pack go to follow him, enjoying the ride. And when they finally catch the child, then they go to a cavern filled with human art. And one of the paintings tell the story of how the humans murder the mammoth. And it is sad, because Manny was the only survivor, and it is painted how the humans killed his own family. Meanwhile, the humans are still looking for the baby. Thanks to the snow, they cannot continue. And when the pack is about to reach the humans, they found out they are on a volcano. And while escaping, Diego is about to be burned alive, but Manny reaches him, saving his life. But he is about to fall to the lava, but achieves to live thanks to a steam explosion. This moment is when Diego realizes that they actually care about him and adopt them as family. At night, they decided to camp and see how the child takes his first steps, and see how this baby actually likes Diego, making Diego's heart a bit soft. When they fall asleep, Scart arrives with his acorn and tries to unfreeze it with the fire, but it is too hot that turns it into popcorn. And the next day, while walking, Diego realizes that the tigers are following them and tells Manny and Sid all about the trap, and tells them that he regrets all that, and that he wants to do the right thing, so they have to trust him. After that, Diego goes with the tigers to make them attack Sid in the wrong time, and when they get the child, they realize that it was a false baby. Manny gets rid of some of them, but Soto appears and tells Diego to attack Manny with him. Meanwhile, Sid is with the baby, and a tiger is about to attack them. But Sid reacted fast and achieved to save the baby, leaving that tiger stuck in a hole. And when the tigers are about to attack, Diego betrays the tiger, telling him that he is in Manny's side. The other tigers arrive and leave Diego out of combat. When the tigers are about to turn Manny in their dinner, Diego intercept their attack and save him. When Manny saw that Diego was knocked out, Manny gets his inner strength and attacks Soto, defeating him in the process. Then the tigers are so scared and escape right away. When Sid and Manny check on Diego, Sid wants to do CPR on him to revive him, but Diego snaps out and tells them that they have to leave him behind to find the humans. And after some thought, they leave him behind to reach the humans. After a while, the father is about to give up in the search for his son, but Manny appears, and before being exterminated by the humans, Manny takes the baby out and delivers him. And before they leave, the baby goes to say them goodbye, and as a thank you, the father gives Manny his son's necklace. And when the humans are leaving, Diego appears alive, in one of the most shocking returns in anime history. And then they leave the place to continue their journey. Meanwhile, Scart is frozen and arrives to a beach. And when he is unfrozen, the waves take the acorn away from him. He is so angry that starts hitting a palm tree, but then a coconut falls and he tries to save it in the sand. But he ends up breaking the floor and makes the volcano to erupt. And this is how the Ice Age 1 ends. Ice Age 2 begins with Scart trying to save his acorn in an ice cliff, but ends up swallowing water and being shot to the infinite. Then we see how the animals are enjoying the consequences of the global warming. Sid tries to do a good deed by taking care of the children, but they end up humiliating him. Then Manny and Diego arrive to tell him that he is not ready for that responsibility yet. Then, to calm the children down, tells them a story about a happy family. And thanks to a question of one of the children, he realizes that he is not capable of having a family because of the extinction of the mammoths, and this makes him get depressive. Then we see how an animal called Fast Tunny is selling modern devices to be able to breathe underwater, and warns everyone that the end of the world is near, because the ice is melting due to the global warming, and that soon everything is gonna sink, killing everyone in the process. Then Manny tries to calm everyone down by telling them that it is impossible that to happen, but nobody believe him, because they cannot trust the instinct of someone that belongs to an almost extinct species. But they are interrupted because Sid is gonna jump from a cliff to the water to get his friend's respect, but he is saved by Manny, and in the process they find out that the ice is melting and the only ice that separates them from tons of water is about to break down. Then they fall down and warn everyone that Fast Tony was right and they had to be careful, but nobody trusts him now until a vulture arrives to tell them that everything is true, and their only hope is to reach the valley where is wood that they can use as a ship. Then they see that the big ice wall is falling down. And when they leave, we see how ancient creatures that were frozen appear and are unfreezing. And not long after, they eat Tony's friend. But he doesn't care, and as he is a businessman, he tries to sell the shell that he left behind. Meanwhile, Scrat finds his acorn again, and after a comical moment he lost his acorn again. Meanwhile, the pack is in their way to the valley. But in one moment, Manny hears a mammoth's call and rushes to find them. But when he arrives to the sound's origin, he realizes that is just an animal with stomach problems. Then he gets depressed again and wants some time alone. In that moment, Diego and Sid get bullied by two opossums. Crash and Eddie, Sid and Diego try to catch them, but the opossums are so agile and end up humiliating them. Then Manny arrives to a lake, and from one moment to another, he finds another mammoth called Ellie. But the opossums arrive, and Manny finds out that Ellie thinks that she is the opossum's sister, and truly believes that she is an opossum too. Even so, Manny is in love with her, so he decides to ask her join the pack, and she decided to accept, because she wants to travel by night too, and not only by day. Then we see that Scart tries to get his acorn again, but fails once more. Then the pack is keeping the migration. But the opossums are doing it like ninjas because a vulture was following them. So they decide to fake their death, and the vulture goes away. Then Manny tries to convince her that she is not opossum, showing that their footprints and shadows are identical. But she is convinced that she is opossum and he is half opossum. Later, the pack is walking on ice, but Diego is afraid because the ice could break. And it happens because they are attacked by ancient fishes that try to eat them. In one moment, Diego is shocked in fear, so Sid bites his tail and he reacts, escaping on time. And Manny, when is about to be eaten, sees that Ellie is looking and acts rude, gets rid of the ancient fish and scares them, forcing them to retreat. After that, Sid tells Diego that he knows he doesn't know how to swim, but if he wanted to survive, he has to face his fear earlier or later, or else he's gonna drown. Then Scart tries to retrieve his acorn again, but the fishes try to take it away from him. So he gets angry, and with his martial arts ability, he achieves to defeat them in a blink of an eye, and gets back his acorn, but it is stolen by a vulture. After that, Manny wants to impress Ellie, and Sid convinces him to change his attitude. So he helps Eddie to fly, but he is stupid, so he didn't anticipate the damage that was coming for him. So Ellie scolds Manny, but everything is okay because Eddie is unharmed. After that, Ellie in one moment gets stuck with a tree and Manny helps her, and they follow a path that leads them to a tree that was part of Ellie's childhood house, and remembers how she met her opossum mother and her brothers. This is how she recognizes that she is actually a mammoth and not a possum. And after a small walk, Manny confesses that he likes Ellie's butt, something a little nasty, but Ellie liked that compliment. Meanwhile, Scart got to the vulture nest to get his acorn back, but a baby vulture hatched the egg and tried to eat the acorn, but Scart didn't let him and retrieved his acorn. Then a fight for the acorn began, but the vulture's mother arrived, and luckily she didn't kill Scart, he just kicked him out the nest. Meanwhile, Sid tried to teach Diego how to swim, but Diego rejected the offer for his pride. With Manny and Ellie, they flirt a bit with each other, and Manny purposes her to have children so their species doesn't meet the extinction. But Ellie rejects him because she thinks that he does it just because he has to for his species and doesn't care about her, and decides that they have to continue even if it is dark. But soon after they fall in a strange hazard made by the nature that go against all the physics laws. While trying not to fall, the mammoths have an argument that reaches its conclusion because they realize that they exaggerated everything, making peace and saving themselves and their pack. After that, they fall asleep. And while nobody was noticing, Sid was taken by a tribe of sloths that name him the King of Fire. And they want him to make fire because they don't know how to do it. And he achieves it with 2 stones. The sloths were praising him. And when Sid burns his foot by accident, the other sloths copied his movements, even the dance he performed. Then the sloths tie him up to sacrifice him to a volcano to get salvation. And when they throw him to the lava, he is lucky because he bounced out of there. When the morning arrives, everyone is ready to continue the trip, but Sid arrives to tell them what happened, but nobody believes him. Then, in their way, they find some vultures that sing a song that is about how they are going to eat them. Then after a while, they realize they are getting close to their destiny. But an earthquake begins, and some geysers explode. To this, Manny wants to go forward to not lost time. Ellie wants to go around. They argue a bit, but they decide to split, and angry Manny keeps forward. But after a geyser almost kills him, he is in shock, but his friends make him snap out of it and achieve to get out of there alive. Then they arrive to a group of animals and start to look for Ellie, Crash and Eddie. Meanwhile, Scart takes his acorn, but he sees how the flood begins. Ellie and her brothers are trapped by stones, and in the last moment Ellie decides to save her brothers. They go for Manny help, and while he is in his way to save Ellie, the flood reached him. He arrives to where Ellie was trapped and tried to free her, while the opossums were about to drown, so Side goes to save them, but he crashed with ice and fell unconscious. Everything was in Diego's paws now, and after some hesitation he achieved to be brave and jumped to the water, and achieved to swim thanks to the fast little lesson from teacher Sid, and achieved to save them on time. Meanwhile, Manny was struggling to save Ellie. Then, Manny is attacked by the ancient fishes, but Manny takes advantage of them and manages to save Ellie. Meanwhile, Scrat tries to save his acorn, but as usual, his biggest IQ allows him to break the barrier of ice, leaving the water flow, saving everyone, making the water levels go down. Then after that, pack of sloths from before go to Sid to ask him to be their king. But Diego intervenes, telling them that he created their pack and cannot go because he is an important piece of them. So Sid gets happy and decided to stay with his pack. Then the mammoths that we thought were extinct appear, and Ellie decides to join them. Manny wants to join but decides not to do it because of his friends, but they convince him to go and be happy with Ellie. So he confesses all his feelings to Ellie, and she decided to stay with him and the pack instead of going with the mammoths. In the end, Scrat is in the heaven with all the acorns he could eat. But when reaching the mother acorn, he is revived by Sid via CPR, and realizes that his acorn disappeared, and thinks that Sid ate it, so he attacks him until the end of times. Or maybe not the end of times, because Ice Age 3 Dawn of Dinosaurs movie begins. This movie begins with Scrat looking for his acorn, and sees that a sexy female squirrel has taken it. But he has his priorities and goes after his acorn. But after a dispute, the female squirrel named Scratty falls to the void, and Scrat decided to risk his life and his acorn to save her life. But everything was part of her plan, because she is a flying squirrel. She took the acorn, leaving Scrat fall, and even the dust of his falling is a heart. So he fell from love technically. Then he is crashed by Manny, who is in a hurry and didn't see him because Ellie is giving birth, because they actually accomplished the mission of not letting their species to go extinct. But it was a false alarm. Meanwhile, Diego tries to hunt for a reindeer, but he cannot, because he is out of shape, and his need to be food makes fun of him. After that, Manny is showing his Ellie the mini park he made for their child. But they saw that Diego was depressed, and Ellie forces Manny to talk to him. Then Diego tells Manny that he wants to leave the pack to go look for adventures by himself. That makes Manny angry because maybe he wants a free babysitter. While Manny is leaving, Sid arrives and Diego tells him that he better make his own life, because Manny and Ellie are going to be very busy with their own family. Then Sid is very sad, but tries to be friends with the children who reject him. And he falls to a cave where he finds eggs and decides to adopt them. But soon after, the eggs are in danger, so he tries to save them from harm. And with Ellie's help, that is a success. But Manny scolds him, telling him that those eggs are not his, and forces to return them. But when he is about to return them, thanks to the sun, he sees what's inside and decides to keep them. Meanwhile, the mother realizes that the eggs are gone and gets very angry. The next day, from the eggs, dinosaurs are born, and Sid it teaching them how to be sloths. And then he realizes that the mini-saurs are hungry, so he tries to get ox's milk. But when getting some, he realizes that the ox is not a female ox, and the ox proceeds to try to be a murderer. Then by Scrat's side, he is having an epic fight inside Bubbles with Scratty. And this time Scrat gets the acorn, but his bubble explodes, and he falls throughout the ice and beyond. Then Sid, to make the dinosaurs happy, he let them get into Manny's park, but other children also enter. And while Sid was trying to stop the dinos from eating other children, the park was destroyed. Then Manny forces Sid to return the dinosaurs. But while scolding him, the mother saur appears to get her children. Sid tells her that she could only get them back over his grave. But the mother takes her children along with Sid himself. Then the pack embark in a journey to save Sid. In the way, Manny decides that they need a code word in case Ellie gets into do. and Manny purposes the word peaches. He says that it is because he likes peaches, but we and Ellie know that it is because he loves Ellie's backside. Then they arrive at the subterranean dinosaurs world. Then they are attacked by one of them, and when he was about to kill the opossums, Diego saved them. Then they are surrounded, but achieve to escape, thanks to a dinosaur's neck. But they are surrounded again, but a opossum called Buck arrived to save the day. Then he tells them that he saw the dinosaur taking Sid to a waterfall made of lava, and that they had to be careful because there also lived a dinosaur called Rudy that was the responsible of taking his own eye. The pack think that he is exaggerating, so they keep forward. Meanwhile, but Scratty arrives and takes it away, shaving him in the process. Then when Manny tries to get food for Ellie, he ends up being the prey, but carnivorous plant. Then Buck arrives and get inside the plant and saves everyone. And after that problem, Ellie asks him to be their guide, and Buck accepts. Meanwhile, Sid is being captive by the dinosaur mother. But before being her dinner, the mini dinosaurs defend him. Meanwhile, in the pit of death, Ellie achieves to cross without problems. But the others have to cross without annihilating the smoke. But they do, and start laughing with a changed voice. Buck warns them to stop laughing, or else they're gonna die. But he starts laughing too, so Ellie decides that she had to go save them. Meanwhile, Sid and the dinosaur mother are deciding whether the babies have to be vegetarian or they should eat meat. And the babies decide to eat meat. But then they hear a noise, and the babies along the dinosaur mother decide to escape, because they are scared. Then after saving themselves, the pack are about to sleep, while Buck is telling the story of how he faced Rowdy and he devoured him. But he achieves to escape, taking a tooth of his in the process. The same time, the dinosaur mother takes the babies to a refugee and also takes Sid there, because she is starting to like him. Meanwhile, the squirrels are still fighting over the acorn while dancing tango, and from one moment to another, Scart has to choose between escaping with the acorn or saving Scrady. Meanwhile, the pack is arriving to the dinosaur's lair, and after examining the place, Buck deduces that either side killed the dinosaur with a broccoli or the dinosaur ate Sid. Then he finds a path of destruction, understanding that the dinosaur went there and that Rowdy is after them. Back to Scart. Scart achieves to save both, and Scratty falls in love with him. And Scart is choosing Scrady over his beloved acorn. Back to the pack. Ellie thinks that the baby is about to come out, but thanks to some dinosaurs she is trapped far from the rest. Meanwhile, with Sid, he gets far from the dinosaurs, finding Rowdy, and by his screams, the pack realize that he is still alive. Seeing the situation, the pack split to go help Ellie and Sid. Then Sid is trapped among the lava, but Buck and the opossums arrive. Meanwhile, Diego and Manny find out that the dinosaurs want to attack Ellie. So Diego goes to protect her right away, while Manny tries to go where Ellie is. And when he is about to fall tired, gets energy from nowhere, and achieves to defeat one of the dinosaurs, and dances to celebrate, then gets the rest of the dinosaurs. Meanwhile, with the opossums, they are escaping from pterodactyl while throwing them strawberries. In one moment, their pterodactyl is about to fall. But thanks to Buck's CPR, the pterodactyl achieves to fly again, saving Sid from becoming fried sloth in the process. Meanwhile, Manny achieves to reach Ellie and sees his newborn daughter, who is called by Ellie as Peaches, referring to her back part. Then Sid arrives and everyone is about to leave that dangerous place. But Rowdy arrives to block the entrance. But Buck is there to distract him. And while Ellie and her daughter escape, the rest of the pack go to help Buck. The pack achieve to tie Rowdy, but by accident, the most intelligent sloth in the world frees Rowdy and is about to be eaten. But then the dinosaur mother arrives and saves Sid by throwing Rowdy to his death. Then Sid says goodbye to his sons, because their place is in the dinosaur world with their mother. And Buck, when he sees that his eternal rival is now death, he decides to go to the overground with the pack for a new life. But when he is about to leave, he hears Rowdy's roar and decides to stay and breaks the entrance in the process. Already outside, Diego tells the opossums that Buck decided to stay behind and they are sad because they might never see him again. After that, Diego decided to stay with the pack and they lived happy forever. Well, maybe not. Meanwhile, Scart is being Scratty's slave, but he sees the acorn and wants to go for it. But he is discovered by Scratty, so they have a fight that makes them go launched up. Now he has to choose again between Scratty or the acorn, and he chooses his true love, the acorn, to continue destroying the world thanks to his IQ superior to the rest of the existence. Ice Age 4 Continental Drift begins with Scrat breaking a mountain, going to the underworld, even seeing Buck again. He goes down until he reaches the core of the planet, and while trying to get his acorn back, he makes the core to spin, making all kinds of change in the world, and even making the land to separate in different continents, meaning that Scrat is an important part of history. After getting tangled a little, he manages to get out and returns to the surface where he loses his acorn again. On the other hand, while the world continues to ignore the constant tremors caused by Scrat, we once see a young Peaches who swings like possums with her best friend, a mole, named Luis. Peaches plans to go to the waterfall where her friends reunite, but Manny arrives and orders her not to go, because she was still too young to date a boy. Then Diego heard the sound of the world breaking apart. But then, he was attacked by a family of sloths, sliding through the snow without control. They are about to crash with Peaches, but Diego manages to stop them by clinging to a log. Though Diego gets angry and wants to kill the sloths for dinner. But Sid arrives and make it clear that those sloths are his family, Anise and Milton, his parents. They explain to him that, despite having abandoned him in the past, they returned because his grandmother is about to pass out, and they want him to see her for the last time. However, when Sid takes the old woman to talk, the family said they were leaving because they just wanted to get rid of their grandmother. The unhairy both bit. Soon after, Sid knows the truth. But also, his grandmother isn't there. She disappeared. So they begin their search around the surroundings, and in the process, Manny realizes that Peaches is disobeying him, because she goes to the waterfall. Then when she arrives to that place, she observes her platonic love called Ethan. Then she asks her friend if she looks good, and while seeing her in love, he makes it clear that she foes. But Peaches doesn't realize that Luis is in love with her, ending up in the friend zone. Then Peaches goes to see him, but she falls by an ice slide and ends up in front of him. Then Manny arrives and shames her, punishing her in front of everyone, but tells her that he is only protecting her because he is her father. But Peaches tells him that she wishes he was not her father. But in that moment, Continental is separating Manny from his family. In the last second, Manny gives them instructions of going to a place where they can meet again. After that, Manny, Sid and Diego end up in a piece of ice and try to return to the land, but they cannot. The waves brings them far away. Then Ellie, Peaches, Luis, and the opossums make their way to the stone continent to meet with the pack again. Meanwhile, the pack are trapped in the waves that is killing everything it meets. And they even are shoot to the sky, seeing a rainbow in the process. After that problem, everything calms down a bit, and they find out that grandmother is with them, and that she is toxic to water species. Despite this, Side saves her. Meanwhile, Scrat lands in an island where he meets with a squirrel skeleton that is pointing to a place. When he follows the signal, he finds an acorn and goes down, despite the pressure that makes him thin. Then he finds out that it is not an acorn, but a map to get to Acorn's treasure. But an harpoon is shoot and makes him crash against an iceberg. Back to the pack, they are in need of water, and the grandma is looking for her imaginary pet. Then Manny sees a seagull and thinks that they are close to the shore, so they follow it. But they are found by pirates. Among them is a female tiger called Shira. Captain Gut tells them that there is no way to get back to land. But one of the pirates tells them by accident that there is a way, actually. Then, Gut orders the pirates to attack. Diego tries to free the block of ice from the ship, but Shira stops him, and Manny is knocked out. Then Manny wakes up, realizing that they have been kidnapped. Captain Gut tells them that they have as their only option to join his pirate crew, or die. And as Manny rejected the offer, they are going to throw them to the sea, starting with the grandma. But then Diego achieves to free Manny, and he starts a fight with Captain Gut. But they end up breaking the ship in two. But the pack achieve to survive in a piece of ice. The same for the pirate. The pirates notice that Shira is missing, but they don't care, and instead, they are going to look for revenge. Then Shira is saved by the pack, and we see that Shira is probably going to end up with Diego. Meanwhile, in the continent, when everyone is resting, Ethan asks Peaches to go for a walk, but he asks Peaches to get rid of Luis. Then, Ellie arrives and advises her daughter not to let anyone change her. But, this time she doesn't want to sleep like a possum, like a mammoth. Back with the pack, they reach land, and despite Shira tries to escape, Diego stops her, and they find out that the pirates are the abusing from the little species, making them build their new ship. Then when they are planning the best way to stop them, Manny finds the mammals leader, but Manny cannot understand them, and Sid tries to communicate with them. And after some movements, they agree a plan to free the rest of the mammals. Then we see how Diego gives water to Shira. Then Diego tries to convince her that the captain doesn't care about her because nobody was looking for her. She pays no attention to that. Then Shira achieves to escape, goes to the pirates, and tells everything to the captain. Captain Gut warns her that if she doesn't kill Diego, then she was going to die. But the attack has begun, so they go to defend their ship. But all was a distraction, because Diego went to free the mammals, and Sid along his grandmother go to untie the ropes, but Sid distracts by eating strawberries that end up being poisonous for him. And as he ruined the plan, the pirates find out that all that was a distraction. So the ship is going away, and they start a race to get the ship first. And as Sid is unconscious, he gets a lot of hits. Captain tries to crash them, but thanks to that, they arrive to the ship. And when Diego is about to get on the ship, but Shira stops him, but he achieves to convince her to stick with them. And she accepts. But in the end, she had to stay behind to stop the pirate crew. And so the pack could leave that island. But the captain is so angry that he uses his supernatural strength and makes a pile of ice his new ship with his bare hands, and warns Shira that he has something planned for her later. Meanwhile, Scrat tries to get out of the iceberg by leaf plane, but a shark ends up swallowing him. Back to the continent, Peaches reunites with the other mammoths to interact. But she ends up saying that Luis is not her friend. He heard that, breaking his heart. Peaches is about to get sad, but there is no time for that because the cave is falling. So everyone run for their lives. Outside, everyone make fun of her for thinking she is half a possum. So she leaves them, back to the pack. Sid and Manny realize that Diego is in love with Shira, but he says that he is not. After some time, the pack are getting various hallucinations, but Manny realizes that what they are seeing are mermaids because he saw that his daughter said that he was right. So he changes the path of the ship and achieves to escape with the pack. And Sid and Diego had something they surely don't want to remember. Meanwhile, Scart is still looking for the acorn treasure, and one mermaid is trying to control him by making him hallucinate Scratty. But he doesn't care about her anymore and puts his priorities first and leaves her. But then they change the hallucination with an acorn. But as they see that he hits the acorns, they decided to chase him away to be safe. The next day, the grandma is throwing food to the sea for her pet, but everyone think that she is crazy, but see that something is following them. Meanwhile, in the continent, everything is falling apart, and it is a hazard that could kill every animal there. Luckily, the pack arrive, and despite thinking that their family is dead due to the destruction, Manny achieves to see his Ellie, but she is captive with the captain. When Manny is about to face him, he is trapped. But Luis arrives to help, but the pirates make fun of him. But he takes advantage of his mole abilities. He achieves to damage the captain's foot, managing to free Peaches. Manny is then free, and the battle begins. Sid and his grandmother also arrive, and the grandma calls her pet. That was actually real, and it was a huge whale that eats the enemy. Meanwhile, with the pack, Shira decides to join the good guys. They are surrounded. But then the pet arrives and with water manages to beat the evil pirates. Then as a last resort, the captain attempts to kill Ellie. But Peaches uses her opossum powers, saving her. Then everyone reunite to escape. But the captain appears once again to fight Manny, and they fight while sliding down on a piece of ice. In that fight, Manny uses his own weight in his advantage to throw the captain far away. Then Manny is about to fall to his death, but the grandma's pet saved him. On the other hand, the captain is captured by the mermaids. Then Manny reunites with his family and reassures Sid that he is not an idiot as his family called him. But he is a hero, as his grandmother. Also, Shira joins the pack, and Peaches starts to accept Luis's feelings towards her. After that, they see that their home is destroyed, so they move to the Mammals Island to start a new life there. Once there, when Peaches and Luis want to go exploring, Manny stops them just to mention that this time they have his permission because he understands that his little girl has already grown up at that moment. The grandmother makes it clear to him so that he already has a real family because he is surrounded by good people. That is his family. And when she asks him to chew his food, he give her false teeth. On the other hand, we see that Scrat manages to reach Treasure Island, Scratlantis, where more squirrels live and is filled with acorns. Scrat can't stand such abundance and is about to go crazy, and when he discovers the largest acorn, despite the advice of others, Scrat takes it and ends up causing the island to be lost beneath the earth. And I said uncovered to North America. As always, Scrat destroying before creating. This is how Ice Age Finish and Ice Age 5 Clash of Worlds begins. The story continues with Scrat trying to save his acorn in the snow. However, he ends up falling into the ice, and without realizing it, activates an alien ship, which he makes fly until it crashes into the other planets. And while he tries to stop, we see what originates from the creation of Saturn to the constellations and the solar system itself, making possible that he could be the god of creation. Soon he has a spacesuit and takes advantage of the fact that it collides with an asteroid to plant its acorn. But this causes the asteroid to fragment, and the largest part, including the acorn, heads towards the Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth, when Manny Peaches is playing primitive hockey, they are interrupted by waves. Julian, Peaches' boyfriend, arrived, confirming that Luis died thanks to a mage. Here we found out that these two are soon going to get married, and we see that he and this strange mind are happy with Manny, and he says under his breath that that day is special. The bride and groom also act strange because they mention that they are waiting for the right moment to reveal something to Manny. Then, Manny takes Julian to spend time together, because Manny doesn't like the boy very much. Then we see Side again, who is about to propose to his girlfriend, Francina, whom he met 11 minutes ago. But then, she reveals to him that she has decided to leave him, and although she continues trying to prevent it, his heart and eyes are hurt. Later, Manny meets with his friends to talk about women, from the strange behavior of Ellie and Sid's solitude singleness in space. Scrat manages to return to the ship with his acorn that he recovered some way. When trying to return to Earth, he ends up moving away from Earth, and by mistake, he increases the ship's speed. And now his acorn weighs so much that it even works as a steamroller. Then we see that more meteorites are approaching the Earth at full speed. Then when Manny is looking for Ellie, he receives the surprise and finally understands that it is his anniversary. However, soon everyone thinks he forgot her because he doesn't have a gift for his wife. But right in the sky, he receives a fireworks show created by the meteorites, and Manny decides to take the credit to save himself. At the same time, Diego and Chira talk about the idea of having children, but they immediately observed that they are unintentionally too scary for children. Back with the mammoths, when the guys and Julian is congratulating his father-in-law by accident, he reveals to him that once he and Peaches are married, they will leave. Then the family discussions begin, but they are interrupted because the meteorites begin to impact the area. And thus, Ellie understands that the Manny's gift never existed. They begin to escape, and after almost being crushed to death, they manage to take refuge in a cave, where Manny observes that Peaches prefers to take shelter, Julian rather than with him. But the meteorites pierce the thick layer of ice and reach up to the underground world. Here we meet the family of dino birds, made up of Gavin and his sons, Gertie and Roger. They have just stolen an egg from a triceratops. But immediately Buck appears, and not only recovers it, but humiliates us in the process. When escaping from the place and collides with a rock and falls through a tunnel, where he discovers an ancient gallery with a plaque in which a prophecy is found. Later on, the surface when leaving the cave, the protagonists receive a visit from Buck, and Eddie and Crash are the happiest, and he shows them the stone where it is made clear that every 100 years, the world receives a cosmic cleansing, something that happened before and after the dinosaurs. And now it is their turn. And, while it seems that prophecy is totally true, it because immediately everyone observes that a large asteroid is approaching them. But Buck reveals that he has a plan, because apparently the asteroid always hits the same place near a volcano, so they must go to that place and find out what is happening. Without options, the mission to stop extinction begins. Moments later, the family trio comes to the surface. The smartest one of them, Roya, warns them that it is impossible. The others decide that they must stop Buck so that they can rule over the post-apocalyptic world, since they can fly. Meanwhile, in the ship, it is which begins to suffer the dangers of teleportation, and in a moment of anger ends up losing its acorn again. Meanwhile, as the pack continue to advance, Manny tries to convince Peaches to live with them, making her believe that it is her idea. But before he could do it, Buck finds pieces of asteroids and understands that these are magnets. But to explain it better, he makes a documentary with the opossums, minds acting as astrophysicist, Pythagoras, and a robot. There, they explain that there is a large magnet on Earth that attracts the asteroid, and that the only way to save is to move it to space, so they take it away from the Earth. They continue their way, and soon Buck notices that the bird children are approaching. So everyone in the forest, for whoever they are, attack, because he doesn't want them to know of the danger. So they arrive to a river through which it is impossible to pass, and then right there, when Scratch tries to recover his acorn, he ends up launching the moon into the Earth's orbit, which causes the river to open, just when Buck asks it, as if he was Moss's. But the surprises do not end, because now Scart sends an electrical storm from Jupiter right over them, which causes the static of the storm to cause the protagonist's fur to become fluffy. Then Manny and Ellie take advantage of the storm and begin to say indirect comments to Peaches about how it is better to be together to survive. At that moment, they are about to be attacked by the birds, but thanks to the opossums and their carelessness, they are electrocuted nonetheless. This also produces a shower of electricity where the possums and the granny are hit. Peaches gets in trouble, so her parents try to help her, but they end up trapped. So I say use the laws of physics, and using an opposite charge deflects the rays until they all escape. Then Diego finds a feather from the birds and begins to suspect. Later, when they stop to rest, Manny continues with his plan and distracts Julian while playing hockey, while he tries to implant his daughter's fears of being a mother in the middle of nature, far from her family. Although she immediately loves and shows you that she is capable of solving that situation without any major problems. Then when she meditates, and when she returns with Julian, she observes that Manny hits him with a rock. Seeing this, Peaches decides to make it clear to them that if she survives, she and Julian will leave, even if they don't like it. Later, when everyone is asleep, however, he soon discovers that he captured the grandmother. She is eaten by Gabin, but when she tries to leave through the back door, they decide to throw it up and throw it off the cliff, where we see that someone is approaching her. On the other hand, Buck wakes up due to the asteroid's light. But when he reads the stone, he realized that he misunderstood, because the asteroid is closer than he expected. Moments later, he discovers a trail with the feathers of the birds, and already cornered, he reveals to everyone that a trio of flying dinosaurs took her. When looking for the old woman, they end up finding the big magnet that attracts the asteroid, and they hear the grandmother's screams as they follow it. They realize that she is in the middle of the rock, receiving a massage from a rabbit. Then they discover that there is a whole colony of animals inside. So they meet Broke, a sloth who is attracted to Sid, and she reveals to him that this place is called Geotopia. And upon understanding it about the asteroid, she decides to take them to the presence of their leader, a llama called Shangri. He reveals to them that the place is full of magnetic crystals, which not only attract the asteroid, but also grants immortality to its inhabitants. After hearing this voice, they ask them to throw the crystals into space so that the asteroid deviates. But Shangri says that it is impossible, and he decides to ignore them. Later, when everyone is accepting that they will die, we see that Brooke proposes to Sid. He is so happy that he takes out one of the magnetic crystals as a gift, but this causes Geotopia to collapse as matters. The crystals no longer work. We see that the inhabitants suddenly get older. At that moment, upon seeing the volcano, Buck comes up with the idea of using them to cause an explosion that sends the crystals to the space. Changri refuses to lose their crystals because he wants to rebuild Geotopia. But Brooke makes it clear that the crystals do not belong to them and convinces him to help. So, they proceed to plug the steam leaks that surround the volcano so that it has greater pressure. And soon, they almost fill the mouth of the volcano with crystals. Buck, let it be known that they are 6 minutes ahead of the asteroid, but we immediately see that Scrat tries to land on Earth, but it only ends up pushing the asteroid, and now the protagonists are 6 minutes behind. And then the dino birds arrive and capture Buck. Here Gabby explains his plan to govern the post-apocalyptic world. But when he saw the meteorites crashing some birds, they understand that they will also die, so they manage to make him see reason and convince him to help. So they are all together, trying to put the biggest sea crystal. But they just receive a shower of meteorites. So Manny and Julian proceed to push the glass, but it's too heavy for them. Then Julian comes up with an idea, and although Manny at first hesitates, when he understands that Julian would do whatever it takes to live with Peaches, he agrees to follow his plan and push the crystal in the opposite direction. Thus we see that it rolls down, obtaining enough momentum to reach the volcano. There everyone observes that the asteroid has just entered the Earth's atmosphere. And moments after, the volcano still does not react, but we immediately see that there is still a loss of steam. And when the grandmother finally covers it, the polka throws the crystals into the sky. And before the asteroid crashes, the magnetism of the crystals manages to change its direction, sending it out of the Earth. The celebrations begin, and we see that Side receives Brooke's kisses. And Manny finally accepts Julian as his family, although unfortunately the next day, Brooke breaks up with Sid and stays in Geotopia with his grandmother, because this place is now like an asylum. Once again, Single leaves with his pack. However, later, when the elderly are enjoying the jacuzzi, one of the crystals falls into the water and causes everyone to turn young again. So we discover that Granny used to be a heartbreaker with her beauty. After this, we are at Peaches and Julian's wedding. Here we see that Diego de Shira, thanks to their savior's fame, they finally manage to interact with the children without scaring them. Nearby, Peaches gets nervous because she doesn't know if she can get away from her parents. But they make it clear to her that experiencing new adventures is part of her life, and that she can always return. Calmly, they reach the altar and accepts to marry Julian. Even though everything is happiness, Sid is sad. But he immediately discovers that Brooke is there, and proceeds to sing. And we see that even Manny forgives his son-in-law's clumsiness and dances with Peaches. Before finishing, we see that, in the past, Mars enjoyed life just like the Earth. But thanks to Scart, it came to extinction. This is how the 5th movie ends. But now the Ice Age, the adventures of Vogue, begins. Everything begins with a mural telling us the story of all the movies made, until arriving to the end, telling us that the opossums are acting strange. Then we see that the opossums are about to go down a dangerous slide, but Ellie prohibited them to do it, so they decided to leave the pack so they can do whatever they want. But the first thing they do is an avalanche that almost kill their friends. Then they are told that thanks to their silliness, they cannot live without the protection of the pack. At night, Manny purposes Ellie that she should let her brothers to be independent. Thus, she clarifies that since their mother died, she has the responsibility of taking care of them. But when she is asleep, Crash and Edie decided to say goodbye to her and leave. When Ellie finds out, she scolds Manny for what he said. Then the pack embarks on a journey to find them. Meanwhile, the opossum by accident enter to the prohibited world, where they find a dinosaur named Orson. He wants to kill the opossums, so sends 2 dinosaurs to finish him. But they achieve to escape, arriving to the dinosaur world. They go through a hard time, but Buck arrives to save them. But the velociraptors arrive, and with his flying skills, Buck managed to get rid of them. There Buck explains them that Orson tries to dominate the world, and the velociraptors are his loyal subjects, already safe. The opossums tell Buck that they are independent now, but seeing the problems, he decides to take them to the surface again because he's dealing with Orson. But the entrance is blocked by a rock. The responsible was Orson, who blocked the entrance because that world is only for dinosaurs, not for mammals, and lets it clear that he is superior thanks to his huge brain. Then he orders the velociraptors to attack, but the opossums fake their death for protection. But Orson tells them that they are just acting, so they are in danger now. But thanks to Buck they achieve to escape. And in he shadows someone is watching them. Then Buck takes them to his house to be safe, and they ask him to let them live there. He accepts, but they have to defeat Orson first. And he tells them that he was before part of a crew that protected everyone. But Orson rejected to join them in the past and also defeated the crew. So he defeated him and exiled him to an island. But Orson achieved to control the velociraptors with fire to make them build a bridge to escape from there. Then velociraptors arrive, and although he tries to make the opossums to hide, they don't understand and do stupid things. But before a fight begins, the room is filled with smoke that knocks everyone out. When Buck wakes up, he realizes that the opossums didn't faint because the smoke smells like them, and also sees that it was an old member of his crew who was helping them. Her name is Z. Then they go to the spring to make a plan to defeat Orson. But he arrives with an army of dozens of velociraptors and begin the attack. So they decided to do in strategic retreat, in other words, to escape. Then they decide to go to the Lost Lagoon. In the way, the opossums ask them why the crew separated. Then Buck and Z blame each other for the failed mission where they lost their comrade. Then the opossums decided to take advantage of their night nature and guide the ship while Buck and Z are sleeping, but they are being followed. The next day, Buck warns them about the danger of the nature, but the opossums don't pay attention while playing with Frog's flamethrowers. Then they arrive to the Lost Lagoon. Buck calls the dino mother for help, but she has tooth problems, so Buck knocks her down to fix her tooth. After that, the velociraptors arrive and they wake up the dino mother with a bomb, but she is too dizzy to fight. And when the crew is surrounded by the velociraptors, Buck and Z apologize with each other. Then Buck decides to surrender, so the others can escape. Then they go to the spring and see everything destroyed. Then the opossums realize that Ellie was right because they cannot take care of themselves. But Z tells them that they have to be brave to go save Buck. Filled with inspiration, and with Z's help, they train a bit. When they are ready, they realize that they are capable to fight using mini projectiles. Meanwhile, the pack find out that the opossums went back to the dinosaur world. Back to the opossum and Z, they see the spring destroyed and filled with velociraptors. When the pack arrive to the entrance to the dinosaur world, Manny oves the rock with ease, but thanks to Sid they are almost crushed by the rock. Then they meet again with the dino mother, who explains the situation to the pack. And Sid doesn't ask for his sons because maybe a wizard disappeared them. Then in the spring, the opossums and Z arrive to save Buck. But Arson lightens the string that is holding Buck and pushes him to the abyss. But Z jumps to save him and achieves it. Then the pack arrive riding the dino mother and realize that the opossums are capable to fight the velociraptors and even defeat them. Then a battle between them begins. While Buck is trying to convince Orson that the dinosaur world shouldn't be governed by no one. Then after a fight, Buck has Orson cornered, and Orson lights a fire. But the opossums deduce that Orson controls the velociraptors with the fire, so they decide to use the flamethrower frogs to make the velociraptors copy them and fake their death. Without the control, now Orson is harmless, and the opossums tell the velociraptors to chase him until the end of times. Then, Ellie and the opossums make peace, because the opossums didn't obey her and she was overprotective with them. The rest of the pack also apologized and the opossums decided to stick with the pack. Everyone is happy now, and they leave the dinosaur world that gets sun rays for some reason. Even thought it is underworld. That is the end of all the Ice Age until now, and we hope that there are no more movies for a long time.